Grand evening to all. Welcome to Reed's Learning Street. Tonight we would like to speak with you about education. I do have a special guest that is going to join discussing education. This is she is a teenager who is an artist as well as a straight A student at Martin Luther King Junior Senior High School, and she also happens to be my niece. Her name is My Joy Louise Reed.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hello there, Miss Joy.
Hi,
How are you? Okay, I see I've got a slight lag.
you do. I am good. How about yourself?
Okay. I'm great. Thank you very much, very much. And how are you? I'm so glad that you're able to join me this evening.
I'm really good. Yes, I'm so happy to be here and to talk about education with y'all. Very excited.
Good, good, good. I just wanted to pop in for, maybe a few minutes or so, and hopefully we can talk about education, its beginnings, and where it's at now and where it's going, or where you as a teenager see education and where you see the whole of the educational system going, which directions you see it going into.
hmm
How do you feel about being in the public school system?
Well, starting off in the public system, I didn't really see an issue with it. But now as I'm getting older and I'm doing more research on it, I'm seeing a lot of problems within the system, within the schools. But I mean, it's to be expected when there's so many students going there. But I wouldn't recommend it if you haven't been in public school your whole life and you have no other choice. I would recommend being either homeschooled or, yes, homeschooled for sure.
Really? So, what is different about homeschool compared to the public school system?
I'd say the ratio of student to teacher, the ratio of counselors to students. I feel like the public school system doesn't have enough aid. Like they won't aid the students enough just because they don't have the resources to. And in homeschool, you have one teacher, and the teacher is teaching you everything you need to know. And with that, it's much easier and you learn way more because you're having more hands on, one to one learning, one teaching.
So, with homeschool, is more so that it's less of a student to teacher ratio. In the school system, there's more of at least 20 students in each class, correct?
Right,
With one instructor.
right. And there's 7 classes. So that teacher has at least 140 students, at
That's a
least.
lot.
hmm
That's a lot of responsibility for one individual to keep up with. And then if you compare that to the homeschooling, where the instructor, such as myself, keeps the classroom small, or the interaction with anywhere from 5 to 7 at most, it is a much different experience. Okay,
Definitely.
okay. So let's get into some this presentation that you have for me.
Okay. So I did some research on the origin of public education, and these are some of the things I found. I found that public education was created to prepare children to be working class citizens. And the central aim of the public school system was to establish more efficient mechanisms of social control and its chief legacy was the principle that education was something the better part of the community did to the others to make them orderly, moral, and tractable, meaning they just wanted to control them. Public schools shifted from private school because of the influx of poor non-Protestant immigrants during the school wars of the 1840s. It was just the wars between between the private school and the public school because they didn't feel like people who couldn't afford school should be less educated than those who could. And then the agriculture also changed gradually, um, which changed society greatly. People produced more children, which caused the need to provide more food to feed their children. They're also forced into moving into permanent living situations where they grew crops as opposed to living a nomadic life and living off the land. This elevated the cost of labor. Farmers had to plow, plant, and cultivate and tend to their flocks. So children had to work on these farms to aid in their feeding their families as well, which caused an educational decline. And children first learned through playing and exploration. That was back in the hunter gatherer days. And their parents would allow them unlimited freedom to play and explore because they knew that's how they learned and they wanted them to be very smart. Pretty much sums up the research I've done, or at least on this topic. All right, public school. Yes, I'm sure you have more.
Okay, so you were saying, let me get that off of there. Can you put back up your research paper, please?
Yes.
Okay, so if we can, if I was reading correctly, okay, public school shifted from private school because of the influx of poor non Protestant immigrants during the school wars of the 1840s. Who were at war?
There was a war between the public school system and the private school system. That was the school wars.
Okay, so there was a public system and a private system. So what was the private sector?
Um, Mostly it was attended by rich white people and their children, and the public schools were, well, you asked about private, so yeah, just those more fortunate in the financial department or, higher class, if that makes sense.
So if the term white was not in the 1800s, how is it that the white people attended private schools? The term white didn't come into uh, color terminology didn't come into effect until the 1950s, 1960s, somewhere around that, where then you get that black is, you've got black, then white. But prior to that, it was more of a nationality
Mm-hmm.
uh, as opposed to a color. So that's why I'm trying to figure out what group was in the private school sector.
The more privileged financially, though, those who could pay for schooling, who felt that it was important to be superior.
So what about people that had private teachers or private tutors? Is that what you mean by private schooling?
Hmm. Yes.
Okay, so was it a private school or was it a private tutor?
It started with private tutors and then became a private school.
So the tutors created their own schools.
Yes.
We might have to do a little bit more research on that. I might have to check into that one. Okay. Interesting, interesting. So let's see what I have come up with. Let's brainstorm. So, education, specifically public education, where did it begin? According to Merriam-Webster, the definition is the action or process of educating or of being educated. Although, can we keep the word educated in the definition of education?
No.
It, okay, so let's go with the knowledge and development resulting from the process of being educated. There's still the term of education.
Exactly. Can't use that
Huh.
word.
Again, so let's go down to number 2, the field of study that deals mainly with methods of teaching and learning in schools. I think that one's more along what we are looking for. Synonyms being instruction, schooling, teaching, training, tuition, tutelage, and tutoring. I thought tuition meant a form of payment for learning. I did not think that that meant education.
Me
We'll have
either.
to look further into that. Okay, so let's look into the word origin. Can you see that screen?
I can.
Can you read that word origin over here for me, please? Uh-oh, my apologies. There we go.
Right. The word origin is the process of receiving or giving systematic.
Okay, so no, I mean up under the dictionary.com definition where it says the
Oh,
word origin.
yes. Okay. Mid 16th century, from Latin education, a noun.
Incorrect. That's educatio. You see that? Latin is educatio.
Educatio.
Now, yes, removing of the N from the verb educare.
Mm. See, educate.
All right, so
Okay.
1, the process of receiving or giving systematic instruction, especially at a school or university. A new system of public education. That's a sample of a sentence. Those S's get me sometimes. The theory and practice of teaching, colleges of education. Okay. A body of knowledge acquired while being educated. There go. You can't put the word in there though. Okay. Learning, knowledge, literacy, schooling. That's a similar. Opposite would be ignorance. The opposite of educatio is ignorance. Okay. Information about or training in a particular field or subject. An enlightening experience. All right, let's go to the next page because that's a little bit interesting. All right, etymology. Now let's look at the breakdown of the word via Etymon Online, Etym Online. All right, in the 1530s, child rearing, also the training of animals, because we know that rearing refers to animals being born, uh, bred, and trained. Okay, from French education, and directly from Latin educationem, nominative educatio. Remember, we just saw educatio on the other slide.
Mm-hmm. Latin.
Now, yeah, a rearing, though. You see that where it says a rearing? Why in
Oh,
the world you keep doing that?
oh,
What? There we go.
there.
A rearing, okay, training. Noun of action from past participle stem of educare, which is the origin of educate. The R was just turned into a T. Originally of instruction in social codes and manners, meaning systemic schooling and training for work.
Mm.
That is what education is for, training for work. Systemic schooling. All education is despotism. I highlighted despotism on purpose Despotism means absolute power, unrestricted and unlimited authority. That is what the teachers and instructors in the school system have. A political system based on an arbitrary government. Dig that, okay? So from French despotisme, see despo slash ism by 1794 as a political system. The educational system was created to teach you how to become a good worker. Okay. Education, now in the process of receiving or giving systemic instruction, especially at a school or university. A new system of public education, okay? When talking about education, people often confuse it with schooling because there's a difference between educating and schooling. Did you know that?
Yes.
Many think of places like schools or colleges when seeing or hearing the word of education. They might also look to particular jobs like teacher or tutor. The problem with this is that while looking to help people learn, the way a lot of schools and teachers operate is not necessarily something we can properly call education. They have chosen or fallen or been pushed into schooling, trying to drill learning into people according to some plan often drawn up by others. Some guy from 1973 famously called this banking, making deposits of knowledge. Such schooling too easily descends into treating learners like objects, things to be acted upon rather than people to be related to. This is according to a discussion on infed.org, a definition and discussion introduction on what is education. So colonial schools is obviously where they started at, well, I won't say started, prior to colonial schooling. We all know that your parents are your first instructors. And we start learning at home from uh, creation in the womb, running around as a little baby, your toddler, up until the system says that at 5 or 6, that you should be going into there at preschool. So all of that time is still learning time done with the family. Prior to them coming up with preschools, though, we did this at home anyway. So let's learn a little bit about colonial schools. This is, of course, according to Noah Webster House.org. And early, you want to read this for me?
In early Connecticut, towns with 70 families had to have a school for 6
Okay,
months.
so hold on. Can you start over?
Yes.
There's some feedback.
Okay. In early Connecticut, towns with 70 families had to have a school for 6 months a year. Students did not have to attend school for all 6 months, but the schools had to be there in case they wanted to attend. The churches ran the schools, and religion was an important part of education. The West Division had several schoolhouses in the 1770s, so most students walked less than a mile or two to school. One-room schoolhouses were plain and often located in the middle of roads because no one wanted to use good farmland for schools. As they worked, students heard the noises of people working and farm carts rumbling by on dirt roads. The only heat came from fireplaces, candles were costly, and most light came from small windows. Teachers did not have very many tools, no globes, no blackboards, no bulletin boards. Most students owned their own primers, but sometimes books were shared in class. Students wrote with quill pens and copybooks that they made at home. They also used slates to practice their lessons. And New England schoolhouses did not have desks or chairs. Students sat straight on hard, backless benches. Because teachers were not well trained, students spent most of their time reciting and memorizing lessons. Most lessons did not teach students to think, just imitate. Our grades were taught in one room at one time by one teacher. Sometimes there were up to 70 students in one class. Younger students sat in the front, while older students sat in the back. Boys usually went to school in the winter when there were fewer farm chores for them to do, while girls and younger children went to school in the summer. Students ranged in age from 4 to 20 years old. When their parents needed them to work at home, they did not go to school. Many students did chores before school, went to school from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., did more chores, and then played afterwards. The teachers were sometimes not much older than the students. Many were not trained, were poorly paid, and relied on students' parents for room and board. Noah Webster spent much of his life trying to improve American education through his writings. Thanks to his reforms, schools have changed for the better.
All right, all right, all right. So, did you see in there where it sort of kind of contradicted, not sort of, it contradicted where you said that because they had more children, that's why they went to schools?
Hmm.
These children didn't go to school back in the day. All their learning happened at home for the most part, and the school building was an option.
Yes.
Most of the time, the tutors were living in a at the home with the parents, and most of the students would come to that parent's house or to the farmhouse and have their classes there that way. That was why Noah Webster wanted to change everything. He wanted to make it where everybody had to come to school. Come on in so that your parents can do the work. We need them working, etc. Not just Noah Webster, but others. Noah Webster was just one person that did writings on it. That's why we have the Noah Webster's Dictionary.
Hmm.
Noah Webster wanted to make an impression on the quote unquote American education. All right, school. The definition of school as opposed to the definition of education. A school is an educational institution designed to provide learning spaces and learning environments for the teaching of students under the direction of teachers. Most countries have systems of formal education, which is sometimes compulsory. In these systems, students progress through a series of schools. Compulsory and a series of schools, meaning that you start at primary, then go to secondary, then after that you continue on with uh, your undergraduates and et cetera from that point forward. Let's see, an institution for educating children as the noun. Writer's children did not go to school at all. Similar educational institution, center of learning, academy, or college. Any institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. Via dictionary.com. So now we're going to have school's etymology. In place of instruction, Middle English, school, SCOLE, from Old English school, SCOL, institution for instruction, from Latin schola, meaning a place for teachers and students, a place of instruction, also learned conversation, debate, lecture, disciplines of a teacher, body of followers, sect, also in the older Greek sense of intermission of work, leisure for learning. There's a difference between education and schooling. Can you see that?
Yes.
All right, this is from Greek skole, spare time, leisure, rest, ease, idleness, that in which leisure is employed. Learn, discussion, also a place for lectures. School. Originally, a holding back, a keeping clear from skein, to get, from pi root saig, to hold. Ole, from by analogy with bole, a throw, stole, outfit, etc. Do you see how you have to know how the roots of words add together to make a particular word? That ole, as you can see on the end of hole, stole, you
Hmm.
see how it changed up?
Yep.
Okay. The basic sense of the Greek word is leisure, which passed to audio discussion, little feedback. Okay, there we go. In Athens or Rome, the favorite or proper use of free time. Then it came to be used for the place for such discussions. The Latin word was widely borrowed in addition to Old French, escole, French école, Spanish escuela, Italian scuola, Old High German scuola, German skole, Swedish skola, Gaelic skiol, Welsh iskol, Russian skola. The meaning students attending a school in English is attested from circa 1300s. The sense of school building is by the 1590s. Okay, and a sense of people united by a general similarity of principles and methods is from the 1610s. Hence, school of thought. I'm quite sure you've heard that terminology before. A
Hmm.
particular school of thought, okay, by 1848. As an adjective by the mid 1800s, circa 18 circa, I believe that's circa, pertaining to or relating to a school or to education. Here's one that's pretty familiar: School of Hard Knocks. Rough Experiences in Life is by 1870. To Tell Tales Out of School, Betray Damaging Secrets is from 1540s. School Buses from 1908. School Days is from the 1590s. School Board, Local Committee of Education is by 1836. School District, the division of a town or city for the management of schools, is by the 1809s. Interesting how the term school, scola, scuola, schule, scola, skiol, escola, scola. It
These words
shows you
kill me.
again how this quote unquote English language has taken words from other languages and utilize them for self. So, how does the term school, which originally means leisure time or to come together for discussion, ends up meaning education and being in a room for 8 hours a day with no sunlight, being taught to imitate someone? Being taught to imitate is not the same as learning. So, education is not the same as school. Educating is training you to be like. Schooling is giving you the free thought to express yourself. Let's go on because we don't have much longer and I don't want to have you all night. All right, on April, a schoolhouse or a room. On April 23rd, 1634, 635, my apology, the first public school in what would become the United States was established in Boston, Massachusetts. Known as the Boston Latin School, this boys only public secondary school was led by schoolmaster Philemon Portman, a Puritan settler. It's back to that religious stuff. The Boston Latin School was strictly for college preparation. It was modeled after the Free Grammar School of Boston, England. The English school taught Latin and Greek and was centered on the humanities. Some of the Boston Latin School's most well-known alumni include John Hancock Adams. Franklin was a dropout. I don't know if you knew that or not. I don't know if many people know that. The Boston Latin School is still a fully functioning school. However, it has changed with time, apparently, because now it is coeducational with male and female. It has moved locations, is now in the Fenway neighborhood. Admission is still very competitive and limited to residents. All right, via National Geographic as the first public school. Okay, so secondary as opposed to primary, because we know about primary school is the first school that you go to, and then secondary is after primary school, which is now high school. Boston Latin School is the oldest school in America, founded by the town of Boston, antedating Harvard College by more than 1 year. The curriculum of the school is centered in the humanities, founders sharing with the ancient Greeks the belief that only good things are the goods of the soul. Back to that religious stuff. From its beginning, it taught its scholars dissent with responsibility as persistently encouraged such dissent. Establishment of the school was due in great measure to the influence of the Reverend John Cotton, who sought to create in the New World a school like the Free Grammar School of Boston, England, in which Latin and Greek were taught. The first classes were held in the home of the master, Philemon Portman. See the footnotes. From the earliest years, the town assigned public funds to the support of the school. It was eventually voted to allow for ever £50 to the master and a house, £30 to an usher, an assistant teacher. Okay, Philemon Portman migrated during the Puritan Great Migration of 1620 to 1640. Puritan, a member of a group of English Protestants of the late 16th and 17th century who regarded the Reformation of the Church of England under Queen Elizabeth. Let me remove that. Yeah, because see, I ain't supposed to say that. Queen, not for her. Reformation of the Church of England under Elizabeth as incomplete and sought to simplify and regulate forms of worship. So they were pretty much training and teaching how to be religious. All right. Images of what your classroom should not be. Them dagnabbit four walls and chairs and tables with your hands up. You can't even speak when you want to be, seen. You got to wait. You got to fit in. Yeah, this should be your classroom. Get your hands dirty. Go to the science center, etc. Okay, so that's all I have in my presentation. So is there anything that you, my dear, would like to share with us to end our evening? Because we have gone over a little bit. I'm glad you were able to sit and talk with me. Did you find anything in there?
I found a lot of interesting things. I think the most interesting thing I've learned, well, today at least, is that the school is or education would be it rooted in imitation, like teaching students how to imitate instead of actually learning using their brains. They were just trying to be someone else. That doesn't sit right with me. I already know about them training us to be workers or to be working class citizens or people who work for them, but the imitation part just kind of threw me for a loop.
Yeah. See, that's why we got to study to show thyself approved. When you were reading your paper, that's why when I saw the part where it said that they, had children so that they could farm and agriculture, etc. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This was a little bit different, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm glad I got to learn something. You got to learn something. Do you have any closing words for our audience? I'm so glad you came to be on my show with me. Well, not show, to do our report publicly.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. It's great to be seen, great to be heard. I just want to thank everybody for coming and watching. Hopefully, you guys learned something as well. I mean,
let me put your information up just in case anyone would like to reach out to you. They can find you on SoundCloud at My Joy, on Instagram, My Joy Louise, and Facebook, My Joy. We are Reed's Learning Street. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Reed's Learning Street, and also on YouTube at Reed's Learning Street. You can email us at learningstreetreads@gmail.com if you'd like to ask us some questions or just get some feedback or just want to come on and talk with us as well. Okay, so we're not going to hold anyone up. It is getting late in the evening. We do appreciate you. Gratitude for joining me this evening. Please have a blessed, blissful rest. Peace, love, light, and laughter. Islam.